Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod coaching edition with Emma Collett. She works with high potential, ambitious, and emerging leaders to help them thrive in their career and life with confidence, purpose, and balance. She's the founder of Collett Coaching, Emma Collett Coaching, that is. She's a leader development coach, and we're going to talk about coaching, mindset, business coaching, professional coaching, and transformational coaching today. This pod is brought to you by podpar.com. If you want to start your own, you can go to podpar.com. We help you scale the unconventional way and monetize your podcast. Emma, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thanks, Charles. Good introduction. I left my corporate role about a year ago, was working in HR for a trading firm and was I was the head of recruitment, but I was also doing people leadership coaching. So I developed the leadership platform there, was training our new and emerging and existing leaders, as well as coaching some of our executives there, and realized that was what I really wanted to focus on, what I was passionate about. So I left the recruitment side of it behind and started out my own business about 6 months ago. So here we are today.
And what is it like to coach traders? I would imagine like quirky, eccentric dudes. Because like that's what I've seen in the books, in the movies. It's contrarians most of the time, taking interesting bets because winning against this market is quite hard. So how was your experience coaching these folks?
So the firm that I worked at is not like what you see in the movies. It's much more professional and working with really some of the smartest minds in the industries. So there was a lot less traditional click traders. It was more focused on sort of algorithmic smarts rather than sort of your traditional trader. So the people I was working with were mainly the leaders anyway. So I was doing a bit of coaching with some of the traders, but it was mainly the leaders. And so that was work, as it is with most leaders, it's pretty similar, same sort of problems, same challenges.
Which are?
Well, communication issues, confidence issues, imposter syndrome comes up a lot. People-pleasing problems, perfectionism, what else? Prioritization. Those are just some of the main things that it boils down to.
And what led you to start your own practice?
Well, the coaching side of things was what I was really passionate about. And I really love helping people. I love helping people to get better, to reach their potential, even though that sounds incredibly cliched, but really helping to remove limiting beliefs that get in people's way, that stops them from getting to the next place in their careers or in their life it affects. Often the coaching that I do looks at the root cause of things. And so it solves a problem across all facets of life versus just one particular problem. And so that ability to have impact on people's lives like that is just something I felt really passionate about doing full time.
And as the chief overthinking officer, you know what it means to think too much and have anxiety.
Yes. Yeah, it's something, I think all people who work on their own businesses who are quite lonely, right? It's very easy to get stuck in your own mind. And so I work with quite a few founders who experience that themselves as well. And so being able to help them remove that anxiety and that loneliness of overthinking is really, really important. And being able to give people that confidence that comes from internally rather than relying on a sale or a call or a successful outcome from a business perspective. So yeah, those are some really important things to focus on.
Yeah, startup, in my opinion, can be one of the greatest mirrors. It's a very lonely road. And I mean, it depends on how and when you ask someone, right? Because I started my own businesses a decade ago, so I don't really remember what it feels like when you start. And I guess I got used to all of that circus, but it's definitely, you're exposed naked out there with it's you and all your flaws. And I was with another coach today, and usually businesses that are not growing well, it's because of the owner, right? It's, you need to look at the mirror and the traumas you have, the fears that you have, the mental roadblocks. So what are some of these mental roadblocks that you see in the founders or the clients that you work with nowadays?
Yeah, that is such an important point. And I think just to add to that as well, the if you've got a coach who's out there coaching people, it's super important that they've got over their own crap first, right? Like they've got to be able to be fully present and not putting their own biases on their clients. And so removing all those issues for yourself, doing the work on yourself first is really, really important. Um, and so, sorry, I've distracted myself there. What was your original question?
Yeah, the challenges that your clients face. We talked about imposter syndrome, that we could
Mm,
talk potentially about the fear of judgment or,
yeah.
just their money beliefs, for example.
Yeah, so a lot of it boils down to self-doubt. And so that comes up in various different ways. The imposter syndrome is a big one. 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. It can be very prevalent with females, especially, but more recent research has shown that the men are experiencing it just as much. And it's often people who are in those top positions, right, who have got a lot of success in their careers and really questioning how they got there and if they're going to get found out. And so a lot of the work that I do with clients is about looking at the belief structures or the patterns of behavior that the clients have that's underlying the behavior or the way that people are showing up in their work or in their lives. So it's really about exposing those kind of things. And look, I think whilst there's patterns, similar patterns across clients, it's also individual to each person and how each person makes meaning of the world around them. So it will be very different with each person, but similar sort of themes around that: imposter syndrome, perfectionism, self-doubt, those kind of things.
How do you find your clients nowadays?
It's a good question. So my business has been going for 6 months. I work with a couple of corporates, so I have some leaders that I work with within those corporates. Those have been through my personal network and contacts. I'm currently working on a new marketing strategy as well. So I do a lot of LinkedIn posting of content, which, to be honest with you, probably isn't providing as much value as I'd like to, given the amount of time I put into it. So I'm going to be looking at developing more leads through connecting with more people on LinkedIn, providing masterclasses, and also partnering with other businesses who have a similar sort of audience but are non-competitive. So that's my main focus at the moment.
So do you have anxiety on the cash that your business will generate, and if it doesn't work, coming back to the corporate world?
Look, I'm fortunately or not, I'm not a person who has experienced a lot of anxiety in my life. I have a pretty easygoing mentality about it. I think I'm very fortunate that I earned decent money in my career to date, and so I don't need to worry about the income as much right now. But for sure, in 6 months' time, if my business doesn't start picking up, it's going to become a concern, right? But what I'm mindful of and keep reminding myself of, which is really important, is that I'm getting referrals, I'm getting people who are coming back to me for more coaching. So that's a really good sign. My problem right now is the marketing and getting people to see the value that I can give to them, bring to them.
Yeah, the problem, like most of the time mentioned to my coaching clients, is that as soon as you use the coach keyword, people tune out, because there's so many of them.
Mm.
So you just need to find a people's pain point and taking the problem from a different angle. So it's sort of simple, but the problem I just described, like people failing at entrepreneurship and startup. Well, first, like failing at startups is like sort of default state, so nothing to be ashamed of. And second, I feel that there's only way to be defeated in startup, and if it's you put the key in the door, you know, the startup cannot really defeat itself. You constantly pivot on yourself. I think it's just like at some point, external pressures and doubts really creeping in, either from your family or friends, you know, or stuff
Mm.
that you see online, and your mind constantly repeating to itself like, yo, this is not gonna work. I need to quit, you know, and you just quit, and that's where you lose. What do you think about that?
So look, I think objectively, if you don't have an income coming in, that becomes a problem, right? And so that is where you may need to think about whether you need to pivot your business or get a new job or something like that so that you can support the income. From a doubt perspective, I don't have the same doubts that I used to have since I've done the work on myself. So I have the belief that I can make it work, and I have the belief that I am valuable to people and I'm going to be valuable to my clients. So the doubt side of things isn't as much of a concern for me. It's just the income, it's the objective. Am I making enough cash to pay my bills?
I think the only thing that kept me alive in this game is like my ego. Sometimes when I reflect about it, it's like, yeah, I'm doing this and there's no way I'm failing. And for that reason, I'm like crazy, and I just kept on going year after year. I do think that normal people could have a hard time. I mean, if you're
Mm.
like thinking just like the society and like, oh yeah, I can have an easy life, you know, comfortable life. I think it's so
Mm.
easy to give up on the startup and the entrepreneurship game. What do you think about my ego keeping me alive in this game?
Oh, it's essential, right? And the just the belief in yourself. Uh, I think a lot of startups fail because of the founders' lack of belief in themselves and looking at the external factors around them and taking that information as furthering evidence that they are going to fail and they're not going to succeed in what they're doing. So I do think that it's absolutely essential, not only in founder life, but also across business as well, in leadership, to be really confident of your abilities. Obviously, to be humble and show humility with that as well, because that's really important in the relationship side of things. But yeah, I think that that belief or ego, as you've called it, is key.
So when adversity shows up in my life, I tend to get quite stoic. There's good and bad into that, but what do you do on your side when the clouds show up?
Yeah, it's a good question. So obviously the clouds are always going to show up. We are humans, we're not perfect. So it's about having strategies and techniques to deal with that for me. So one of the things that I like to do when I feel that something stressful is coming up for me and I'm not dealing with it is in as a healthy perspective as I could be, I I stop myself. I take a deep breath in through my nose, out through my mouth, just to ground myself, and that can help in any situation. I'm a big proponent of that. Is taking a breath. We as humans do not breathe properly, and so I think having that breath really brings clarity, and with that clarity, you can then look to a choice, right? You've got a choice on how you respond to things. And so you can choose to respond in a stressed out way where you're reacting, right? You're reacting rather than responding. It's a habituated response to how you've reacted in the past and how it's helped you, versus being able to really think, has this worked for me? Is it going to continue working for me like this? Or should I make a different choice? And so that's one of the strategies that I employ that really helps me. But the big one for me is the breath, I think.
How do you make sure, not like Ziggy, that you're learning from your mistakes and don't repeat them, in Ziggy's case, swallowing two tennis balls?
Yes, for the audience's context there, Ziggy is my 18-month-old Labrador puppy who likes to swallow tennis balls and has had 2 stomach surgeries already. It's a nightmare at the dog park. But I think look, learning from your mistakes is key, right? You don't want to keep making the same mistakes again. So it's about recognizing when a pattern is coming up for you. And so through the coaching that I do, I help my clients bring awareness to those patterns. Some people have the self-awareness themselves and can start to recognize that the patterns are playing out. But I think through coaching, you can really start to unpack what the belief is that's driving that pattern. So catching yourself is number one. And then that kind of the pause, the breath, the choice, and the response comes back to that same system.
I'd add to that like a biohacker's tip and take care of your memory. Like caffeine is good for that. Just that caffeine need to be careful. When I say caffeine, I mean coffee. Coffee has great benefits from proven scientific benefits, anti um, Alzheimer's and dementia and so forth. So increase the memory span. And obviously taking care of your body and so forth, doing sports for higher memory, because as humans, we tend to forget a lot. That's my theory of things on human stupidity is just that we forget all the time. Our memory's quite bad. Now, your daily routine, what does it look like, your self-care routine to be optimal on a daily basis?
So exercise is key. So my normal routine is I get up at 6:15, I walk the dog, I go to the gym, I then take the dog to the dog park, which gives me fresh air, morning sunlight, community because I know the people in the dog park, and the gym gives me the community as well, right? As well as getting my blood pumping. Then I come home and I'll eat a healthy whole food breakfast, and then get started with my day. And that is the kickstart to every day that gives me the clear head, the drive, the motivation, and the energy to get on with my day and be as present as I need to be. That is it's a routine I've been doing for a long time now, and I can see clear differences between when I'm eating whole foods and not drinking alcohol, between when I'm consuming a lot of sugar and drinking or overindulging on the weekends, perhaps. So it's really important to me to stay healthy and active in order to be able to be in my best position to help my clients.
Love it, Emma. And where can people find out more about you?
My website, so emmacollettcoaching.com, and LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. That's where I post some good content. I've also got a subscriber link on my website for my newsletters where I post my regular blogs, events, and exclusive stuff that's coming out. So people can follow me there. And I also have an Instagram, which I'm less active on, but people can follow me if they like.